Hey, welcome to EPN. My name is Victor Lucas, and we bring you the latest in everything cool every single day. And we have a very, very cool and very special episode today. And we are dedicating this show to the incredible, talented people at Sony Santa Monica who brought us God of War. It is God of War launch day, and that's really our rundown for today. God of War is out. It's available. It's a game you can buy and play, and you should play this damn game. It is incredible. And we decided that we're going to do something a little bit different because it's such a special game that we're going to run a different kind of video, which we're going to get to right now. But first, I put a tweet out there asking people what their sort of early impressions are on this incredible game. And I hope you guys have noticed I have an amazing axe behind my head here from NECA. They sent out this model of Kratos' Leviathan axe, and it is insane. Johnny Millennium was wielding it the other day, but I just love this thing. It's an incredible prop. Anyways, I sent out a tweet asking people if they have the game and if they've been playing it, what are some of their thoughts on the title, and I've got a few that I can talk about right now. Ryan D86 on Twitter says, I like how the second boss, I guess this is a bit of a spoiler alert, feels like a superhero battle. I'm 90% sure I know who the stranger is. I bet you don't, but we'll find out if you do later, I'm sure. Mega Matt playing God of War. I started playing at midnight, right when it unlocked. Let's just say I'm not tired at work today. Right, he's not tired. First few hours are incredible. Colby resists the Colbster. I only had time to chop down the tree so far. We're going to find out what he's talking about a little bit later in the show, but it was very satisfying. Gamer for Life, Chuck Forever says, total epicness, could only play it the first couple of hours, 2 boss fights, but had to shut it down because of work. Looks jaw-dropping in 4K. I am totally am with you on that comment. Len DeBrock, Fubarbuya, well, I think I have a defective disc. I put it in my Xbox One X, and it says unable to read disc. We'll have to take it back to Sears for an exchange. That is an awesome tweet. All right, so God of War, I've got some more of those to share with you, but God of War is out there, and it's such a big, important title. Everybody in the industry is talking about it. I don't know if you saw Cory Barlog, the creative director on the game, crying over some of the his reactions to reviews as they went live the other day. He posted a video, which is amazing. But we have talked about it internally, Blake and I, about the importance of this game, and Blake came up with this great idea for a segment. He said, what about other game series out there that could be benefited from some of the lessons learned from God of War? So we put together this video. God of War is such a phenomenon in the video game industry that it got us thinking that perhaps there are 10 other games that could benefit from a God of War caliber reboot. Now, these are fantastic games. They're some of the best games ever made, but God of War has really revolutionized this industry, so of course, we've got to start talking about some other kinds of possibilities, some what-if scenarios. So without further ado, here are 10 other game series that could benefit from a God of War caliber reboot.
Feed us.
Metroid. Samus Aran is an incredible protagonist, and the mysteries around her are part of our attraction to the character, but it would be amazing to see Nintendo take us in with a compelling backstory and provide us with information about why she chose this mercenary life and how she learned to overcome every one of the squishy, dangerous obstacles she has been able to face in her illustrious career. We know that Metroid Other M tried to shed some light on Samus's past, but a clean reboot emphasizing and defining the character's moral core and strong self-reliance while introducing us to well-defined characters that legitimately mean something to Samus would be great material for a new, fresh-feeling Metroid adventure. A state-of-the-art 3D third-person action adventure is what we'd be hoping for here. Castlevania. Even more convoluted than the Metroid plot is the Castlevania lore. I think a reboot for this series would have to start right from the beginning of the game series and focus on Simon Belmont fighting Dracula. The experience should be 3D, third person, and deliver really intricate and detailed level design. We want to see Simon Belmont clearly, we want to feel the terror he feels, and we definitely need the monsters that fight alongside Dracula to come across as pure evil nightmare fuel. The game should be violent, creepy, and M-rated, and in order for it to succeed in a post-God of War, Last of Us, Breath of the Wild world, we really need to believe in the characters that we see up on screen. Halo. One of the key issues with the Halo universe is that Master Chief is a terrific creation, but many of the Halo games spend a lot of time bouncing us into the shoes of other characters, and we don't really get a lot of time to understand the core of this super soldier. The storytelling and world building in the Halo games has always been a great source of pleasure, but a God of War caliber reboot would really let us into the mindset of John 117. I think a third-person open-world Halo adventure set early in Master Chief's career would help us to better place the character into the context of all the threats around him. Maybe some parts of the game are played through flashback sequences, but I think it's imperative to let us really see who this character is and not just from the ancillary material. It should all be in the game. Uncharted. Nathan Drake is one of the greatest video game protagonists of all time, and Naughty Dog has done an incredible job fleshing out the world of Uncharted, but something that has always rung a little hollow is the lack of consequence from all the violence in the game. Yes, the games evoke the pulpy fun of the Indiana Jones movies wonderfully, but games are different. We're not watching a carefully orchestrated framing of these characters. We are in Drake's shoes, and we should feel what he feels completely. The gunplay and the drama of the storytelling are undermined somewhat by the T-rated nature of the experiences. The best way to elevate the experience is to add the weight of the violence and to lean into it a little more. It's okay if the Uncharted series pushes into an M rating if the games get more fulfilling. Metal Gear Solid. This is one of my favorite game series, and the storytelling has been sensational, but even the most hardcore fan would admit that the lore of Metal Gear Solid is a convoluted mess that is absolutely intimidating to new players. Taking a page from the God of War playbook and capitalizing on the fact that with Kojima gone, the series needs a fresh reboot anyway. Here's Konami's chance to effectively set up Solid Snake in a brand new day one adventure. It's almost like the rebooted game could unwind some of the interwoven stories from Kojima's games and deliver something that is equally clear and upfront, but also impactful. This is an opportunity for a new development team to make a name for themselves. Mass Effect. BioWare needs to go back to the drawing board with Mass Effect, that is clear. Character development and storytelling has always been a strong suit for the studio, but now the mechanics of conveying this new Mass Effect story have to be kicked up a notch. The seamless no-cuts concept between God of War is an inspiring challenge. It made us stay up close and personal with Kratos and Atreus from beginning to end. Equally important are action mechanics that feel organically connected to the story beats. However the studio pursues a new iteration of the Mass Effect franchise, you can bet that the devs at BioWare are taking a long, hard look at what Sony Santa Monica achieved with God of War. Assassin's Creed. Even though the series is extremely successful and Origins was a superb distillation of a lot of lessons learned over the years, Assassin's Creed is simply too convoluted. So perhaps the greatest lesson the developers behind future Assassin's Creed games can learn from God of War is how to keep a game epic in scale without getting lost in the plot, all while delivering emotional moments that feel tangible and personal. Not an easy thing to do when you have wide open maps with the crowded streets and dizzying verticality associated with the Assassin's Creed franchise to contend with, but perhaps Ubisoft would be well served by making a new game that's more tightly bound to linear narrative that really moves us. Or perhaps the lessons learned from God of War could be employed by Ubisoft in a brand new Prince of Persia reboot instead. Mega Man. Now, I'm not implying that we need to make an M-rated Mega Man game at all, but wouldn't it be cool if in addition to all the great power-ups and abilities that Mega Man would acquire in a successful 3D third-person reboot of the franchise, we could also get more value from the storytelling in the experience and really grow to love this powerful little robot for more than just his superficial exterior. At the core of the Mega Man myth is the tale of an old professor creating a childlike heroic robot with extraordinary abilities. That tale could be told in a way that really moves us while not losing one bit of the series' patented addictive challenge or zany sense of humor. Devil May Cry. Although I felt that Ninja Theory's divisive reboot of the Dante story was amazing, and perhaps was a bit of an influence on the departures Sony Santa Monica took with their new God of War, it was still quite divisive. So the trick to getting a new Devil May Cry right would be to honor the work that a young and hungry Hideki Kamiya put into the original Devil May Cry, but modernize it and add in some serious and believable gravitas. As insane and over the top as the character of Dante has appeared in the previous games, there is an implied wariness and melancholy that has come with being the world's most badass demon hunter. Perhaps a Devil May Cry reboot could lift from the new God of War's concept of having a beaten down older Kratos and introduce us to an older, wiser, and more down-to-earth Dante that is haunted by some of the demons he helped to annihilate. It would certainly help make the character more rounded and intriguing. Splinter Cell. Like the Metal Gear Solid games, the Splinter Cell titles and Sam Fisher's story has gotten increasingly more complicated over time. Also, with Michael Ironside as our Fisher, the character sounded world-weary from his first training mission. If the series is going to continue with Ironside, an inevitable Splinter Cell reboot should capitalize on Ironside's long career and give us a Fisher that has seen some stuff but still has the tenacity to get things done. I'd love to see a Sam Fisher adventure that starts off straightforward enough but then expands out to deliver the layers of complex intrigue and mystery that we might see in a season of Homeland. So there are some awesome games and some food for thought. It's all meant to come from love and respect. We love those games, but God of War is such an incredible accomplishment, it can't help but inspire some what-if scenarios. I would love to hear your thoughts on this video, and if you've got some other franchises that you think could benefit from a God of War caliber reboot, let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Yeah, see, when I put these videos into, or these games into this video, I was thinking, like, I'm not trying to, insult anybody here. Those are incredible franchises and incredible ideas, and I don't want every game to feel like God of War. That's not what I'm trying to suggest. I just think God of War is such an amazing accomplishment, and it's such a shakeup to what was sort of expected for the franchise, and there are tons of other ideas or tons of other games out there that could benefit from that similar kind of shakeup. Not to turn it into God of War. I don't want an M-rated Mega Man, but to just give us some new ways to engage with these characters and these stories and these worlds. I think that would be a very good thing. I've got some other great comments, though, from players that have been playing a little bit of God of War. Kurt Killarney said on our Facebook page, been playing all day. The game is a visual masterpiece, absolutely stunning. Kratos feels like a person now with a depth to his character that we haven't seen in any previous God of War. See, that's what I'm talking about here. I would love to feel like I know who Master Chief is, not just as this, monolithic, construct, but as a human, maybe an augmented human. But you know what I'm getting. That's my point there. Can't wait to see how the rest of the story unfolds. Matt Quinn, Thorazine. I think Thorazine, you're on here, buddy. I came up with the original Mega Mans and loved them, he says. But on Twitter, he said, I love the smell of God of War in the morning. I don't know. Did you paint that behind there, Thorazine? It looks like you've been busy. But he's got his God of War package there. Enjoy the carnage. Toby Merker says 4 hours in, enjoying it. Combat is good. Story so far is good. Like the kid. Very blunt to the point, this Toby Merker guy. M at the pros. Looks beautiful. Just started. Still getting used to the controls. Hope it's worth the hype. I think you're going to be happy, M. Adam Roffel, good idea, Victor. I had the game prior to launch for review, and for the rest of time, I can say, holy shit, I was one of the first people to play one of the greatest games of all time. And that is a great way to think about, the early access that you had and this experience that you're about to have. It truly is a remarkable, remarkable game. We're going to be playing it on the show. We're going to start right from the beginning, and we're going to give you guys, a nice taste of the early sort of stages of God of War. We'll try my best not to spoil too much in there, but it's going to be fun. But before we do that, we've got lots of other great content to get to. Let's start with this day and everything cool. Welcome to This Day and Everything Cool for April 20th. This day in 1902 was a very elemental day in science. The physicists and chemists Pierre and Marie Curie successfully isolated radioactive radium in a laboratory in Paris, proving for the first time the existence of radium. The Curies had first postulated the existence of radium, along with another element, uranium, when they discovered radioactivity a few years earlier. And when they successfully isolated radium, it was one of the first discoveries of an element that didn't occur freely in nature. For their work, the Curies won a Nobel Prize in physics, making Marie Curie the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, and she went on to win a second Nobel Prize in chemistry a few years later. The discovery of radium and radiation in general has had a huge impact on scientific and technological development, particularly in medical fields, where it's used as a treatment for cancer. Sadly, exposure to radiation can also have negative effects. Marie Curie died in 1934 from aplastic anemia, which is believed to have been caused by her prolonged exposure to radiation. On April 20th, 1990, gamers were playing with fire. Nintendo and Developer Intelligence Systems released the very first Fire Emblem game on the NES in Japan, kicking off the tactical RPG series. It used a turn-based combat system similar to other RPGs, but unlike most other games, Fire Emblem featured a unique permadeath feature, so if one of your characters died in battle, they were gone forever. This was a big change at the time, and as such, Fire Emblem wasn't a huge hit when it first came out. It took a while for the game to catch on, but word of mouth eventually made it a success, and Nintendo followed it up with a sequel 2 years later. There have since been lots of Fire Emblem games, but it took a lot longer for the series to find its way to the West. The first one released outside of Japan was Fire Emblem on the Game Boy Advance in 2003. The original game was eventually remade as Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and given a worldwide release on the Nintendo DS in 2008. Another big Japanese franchise made the jump to a new platform on April 20th, 2010. That's when Capcom released Monster Hunter Tri in North America following its release in Japan the previous year. It was the first game in the franchise released on the Wii, or any Nintendo platform for that matter, with the previous games having been released on the PS2 and PSP. Monster Hunter Tri had originally started development as a PS3 title, but due to the high development costs of that system, Capcom switched it over to the Wii. It was a huge success, with the extra power of the Wii allowing for bigger worlds and monsters, and there was also a more robust online multiplayer component. The success of Monster Hunter Tri on the Wii caused Capcom to keep the franchise on Nintendo platforms, in particular the handheld 3DS, where it stayed to this day. It wasn't until early 2018 that the series would return to a non-Nintendo console with Monster Hunter World on the PS4 and Xbox One. We have got an incredible guest on EP Live today. I loaded up SSX3. It's one of the first games available on the backwards compatibility program for Xbox One. That just blew my mind. So I loaded it into my Xbox One X. It was beautiful on my TV, and I loaded up the credits and I saw Steve Rechtschaffner is the executive producer of this title. And I went, I know Steve. I should talk to Steve about his time on SSX3. And here we have in the studio Steve Rechtschaffner himself. How are you, sir? It's great to have you here.
Great to see you, Victor. It's been a while, but you don't seem to have changed a bit.
Well, I thank you for that. That's very kind. I'm very fortunate that I'm able to play lots of games, and I love this industry so much, and I love that freaking franchise that you built for us. But you know, I know I went and I visited you guys at EAC a number of times. You worked on NBA Street, and you worked on. Did you do all of the SSX games?
Yeah, when I first joined EA in 1994, I had an idea because I had started an event called Border Cross in the real world,
yep.
Which I thought, let's make a game out of this, and I finally got a chance to start on it in the late 90s for launch of PlayStation 2. And so I did SSX, SSX Tricky, and then SSX 3. And then I moved on to some other stuff, and those were the last ones I did.
That's amazing. So let's roll back here for a second. Before you made video games, were you a professional snowboarder? Is that what you were doing, or?
No, I actually was a World Cup freestyle skier many decades ago.
Unreal.
And I actually got to witness the birth of snowboarding because I used to coach kids at Stratton Mountain, Vermont after I stopped competing, and there was a guy there called Jake Burton Carpenter that was making these snowboards in his garage. So I tried it early on, and then later on when I was running the marketing of Swatch, they started putting on events, so I sponsored the first snowboarding world championship. So I've been around snowboarding for a long time. I've been snowboarding for a long time. But if you saw me snowboard, I am about the farthest thing from a professional snowboarder there is.
But you were a professional athlete, a professional skier before all of this.
Freestyle skier, yeah.
That's incredible. So it sounds like you've had a bunch of careers before and after your time with Electronic Arts. But tell me about, because 1994, that's Sega Genesis era. That's pre-PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So EA was not ready to make SSX back then when you first pitched them.
No, not even close. When I joined, I had met Don Matrick. He had just sold his company, Distinctive Software, to EA,
yep.
And they started what became EA Canada. and my wife really, really wanted to move home from Los Angeles to Vancouver.
Okay.
And so I said, sure, if I can find a job. And I met Dawn, and I said, I like video games. I don't know if I can make them, but I can make TV shows and I can make advertising. So, and luckily, back in the era of the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, you know, you had a 6 or 7 person team at most, and it was a much easier time to learn than it is now. So my first games were, I worked on FIFA 94.
Unreal.
Those, which was fun because the FIFA team was just starting the first 3D sports game with FIFA 3DO. And because I had directed a lot of TV commercials and sports, I knew how to think about cameras and showing coverage and telling stories. So it was a very fortuitous time to get involved with games.
That is awesome. And so you saw the advent of 3D technology. You mentioned the 3DO, but you also saw the PlayStation. And did you like walk into Don's office like every year as technology? How about SSX? Hey, how about SS? Like how did that eventually?
Well,
come
there used to be this really cool rule at our studio, which we used to call it silver bullets. So if you made a game and it was a hit, you got a silver bullet so you could try something new on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And so after working on FIFA, the only major sports game we didn't have was a baseball game.
Right.
So I was looking to build my own development group, and I said, can I do baseball? So based on my FIFA work, I got to start Triple Play Baseball.
Awesome.
And that succeeded.
Yes.
And out of that, I said, how can we start working on the snowboard idea? And it was a guy called Paul Lee.
Yep,
who really
I know Paul.
ran the operations side, which kind of let me sneak 3 extra people onto my team, add them on, that actually weren't working on baseball. They were working on building the engine that would become the first SSX. And in the beginning, we didn't actually target it for the PlayStation 2. We were thinking about doing it on the Sega, I think it was the Sega Saturn.
Yes, yeah.
And that didn't turn out to be powerful enough. So we were just guessing. We were doing it all on PCs. We were guessing what we thought the technology could do on the PS2. And when we finally showed it to Sony, they flipped.
Yeah.
And they brought a bunch of our dev team over to Japan and worked. Some of our engineers worked in the studio in Tokyo to get it ready for launch in Japan for the PlayStation 2, which was, I don't know, 3 to 6 months before North America. So it was a really cool experience.
Well, you know, a lot of people that are watching this might not remember, but PlayStation 2 launched with a fireworks game, Fantavision, I think it was the name of it, and SSX. And SSX was like so good that it kind of showcased what this machine was capable of, and also what 3D game development was like. It was the bar, you know. You guys came out with a brand new IP, brand new concept, brand new game, but it raised the bar on what video games were. It must have felt amazing.
It did feel like an amazing accomplishment for the team. And the thing I had learned from doing a lot of different things is people always want to do something or see something they've never done or seen before.
Yes.
And we really believe that if we could be there at the launch when you have fewer choices, you know, if we were out and there was 100 games out, a lot of people wouldn't buy a snowboarding game or even try it. But we never built it as a game for snowboarders. We built it as an arcade action, really over-the-top entertaining racing title that anybody could enjoy. And because, you know, there was, well, I mean, certainly at a 90-plus rated game, there was only 1 or 2 choices in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so people gave it a try. And like a lot of reviews at the time started with, I never thought I'd play a snowboarding game, but. So,
you know, I have a story on SSX. At the time, I lived in a place in Richmond here, just outside of Vancouver, and we had a big basement, and so we filled the basement with a projector because we wanted to have like the movie theater type of experience. And eagerly anticipating the launch of that PlayStation 2 because it had the built-in DVD player and everything. I was like, oh boy, this is the all-in-one machine. And I loaded in SSX, and it was so big on the screen. I got vertigo. I felt like I was going to barf. It was such an incredible, immersive experience. And I was like, it was like, oh, I can't believe what I'm doing right now. So hats off. You almost made me barf with your game, which is incredible.
We maybe should have had an anti-nausea warning. Well, there was a moment. I had a big screen set up myself, and I had a basement. My kids were really young. It was kind of like a game lab.
Yeah.
And when the game was complete, I was playing the Gold Master downstairs on a test box. And I don't know if you remember, but in the original SSX, you beat all the courses, and then it unlocked this thing called Untracked, which nobody knew was there. And it went from this really great kind of electro music to all of a sudden this really ethereal music. And all of a sudden you're just at the top of a mountain with nothing but powder. And I'd almost kind of forgotten about it. And I got to that, and on this big screen, I wouldn't call it a religious moment, but it was inching in that direction.
That's awesome. And so you followed up SSX with SSX Tricky, and you guys got to tune everything and add, you juiced it all. You made it much more. There were more flourishes. I just remember just like the visual stimulation in Tricky was outrageous. It was just crazy. But it kind of followed the design formula of the first SSX pretty much, right? It wasn't a huge departure from the way that you had structured the original game.
Yeah, originally we just thought it's a Christmas later. There's a lot more PlayStation 2 owners out there. How do we make it revitalized? We did a lot more work on it than we thought we would.
Yeah.
We built couple of new courses. We really redid all the courses. We added the trick system, which was the big thing, and then redid all the courses so you could do freestyle competitions on them. But yeah, it on the surface, the structure was very similar to the original SSX.
SSX3, which is what we're playing right now. Blake, can we show any of the footage? Yeah. SSX3, which is what we're playing right now, is so much more than that, though. And I have to be honest with you, Steve, it took me a little while, and our regular viewers know this. Like when it came out and I reviewed it, I got early code, and I was like, okay, this is great, it's cool, but it feels very much like the SSX games that I had played, but it really isn't. And I didn't really clue into that until I couldn't put it down. I kept going back to it. And the game, and I had to apologize. I actually apologized on the show. I was like, I called this too soon. This game got its hooks into me, and I can't stop playing it. And it's unabashedly my favorite snowboarding experience of all time. It's an incredible game. But you guys went kind of open world with this whole idea. Like it takes like half an hour to go from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain. When did you guys decide that was the right way, and not the way that you guys are going to develop SSX3?
Well, that idea of creating the perception of an open mountain was there from early on, and we had an amazing technology team. There were kind of if I could make a Beatles reference, there was a Lennon and a McCartney. Mm-hmm. So on SSX3, Mike Rayner was leading on the technical side for the game and the gameplay and the implementation. But there was also a guy named Jon Spencer who had been involved since day one. He was the one that created the original physics for the snow and differentiating. I mean, we had 16 different kinds of snow early on. And my whole thing has always been about big concepts and then challenge really great people to see what they can do. And Jon, early on we kept talking about how do we make this an open world experience? How do we do that? How do we stream it in a way that's seamless? Theoretically, we did what people thought you couldn't do at that time.
Right.
Have a 30-minute all new content coming at you experience. So the intersection point between Jon and between Mike eventually led to the ability to do that, and it felt right because it still embraced what we knew people wanted. I mean, I've played pretty much every snowboard game that's come out since. And while I appreciate the openness of an exploratory open world experience, I think of these games like pop songs, and we made very well-crafted pop songs, these courses, and they're hard to do right.
Yeah.
And they're hard to get the right rhythms and the right pacing. And as soon as you completely open the world, it becomes a lot looser.
Yeah.
And while that's a very interesting experience to itself, it's different, right? It's anyway. So trying to meld the two together so you had the intensity and the pacing and the rhythm, yet you could put it all together. It just really felt like it was a way to make people believe that they were actually on these big mountains and having this big experience, which is underneath everything. It was that fantasy of, I'm out there, I'm really doing this, and I'm doing amazing things. And even, the idea of how we looked at weather, up on the highest peak, just whipping you around. And that was very much inspired by, a snowy day up on top of the peak at Whistler.
It's awesome.
That's something we wanted to convey to a larger audience.
The idea of Vancouver being so fundamental to the core games too is really like like the spirit of our city and our mountains is in these games. And was that something on purpose, or is it just because you guys all went to the hills and you took inspiration from it?
Well, I mean, our core team. I mean, there was over 100 people working on SSX3, but the core team, on the visual side, on the audio side, on the gameplay side, on the course design side, were largely people from this area. So even the music, was influenced. Johnny Morgan, who drove and created some of the music, but drove a lot of the feel around the music. On the visual side, the team, Andrew, Murphy, and the other folks that were designing the courses, Andrew had actually been a professional border cross racer.
Wow.
And he had done a lot of, high alpine snowboarding, and, him and the other parts of the crew, they were all influenced by things going on around here. But also, you race courses like in the earlier games, like Metro City Meltdown or Aloha Iceberg. They're clearly not Vancouver. Although, what's funny is we're most of us are still really close and connected, and lots of the people that worked on the team have gone on to make amazing games on their own. And but it's amazing watching what's happened in the real world of action sports, where back then having people do triple rotation, twisting flips off jumps. People said to us, that's just so unrealistic. That'll never happen.
Yeah.
And, having giant grandstands and bleachers and all these things, that just doesn't feel like something snowboarding will ever be. And it's funny because you see that in the real world now. And, it would be very interesting to do a new SSX today and say, okay, how do you make something fantastical on top of? We saw the Olympics. In my perception, I think slopestyle and halfpipe stole the Olympics. They were the most exciting things I saw. And with 10,000 people watching, how do you ramp up from there?
Yeah. So not only did SSX, it's 15 years old, by the way, Steve.
Wow.
Can you believe it? Like, you see the copyright 2003 thing pop up when you load it up, and it's still unbelievably fun and so hard to put down, so addictive. But not only did the game influence other games, and you and I talked a little bit about how the Burnout team took inspiration from it, but you're right. I think the real world and the real world sort of sports, community looked at that game and said, wait, why don't we juice our presentation out? That must make you feel pretty damn good.
Well, I don't know if they were that influenced by it or were just all tapping into the same inspiration.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things about making games is it's a lot easier to create something in the digital world than the real world.
Yeah.
So, I would like to believe directly or indirectly we had some influence or led to some inspiration. But for sure, the funnest part of it was just being able to do it at the time and then see it come together. And I mentioned to you earlier, I picked it up and played it about 9 months ago for the first time in well over a decade, SSX3. And, the creator side of me saw a bunch of flaws and things I wished we had done differently, but that went away really quickly. And I was just blown away by some of the moments in the game.
Yeah.
And just thought, man, that team just did an amazing job on this thing. And so many different ways. What you hear, what you see, what you feel, even what you feel emotionally in some of the moments. It's like, to me, as a fan, it's like a it's like a masterpiece album that still is one of my favorites.
Well, we've seen, the industry kind of distance itself from a lot of these action sports titles. Why? Why do you think that's the case, Steve?
Well, I think there's different ways to break this down. One is there are literally action sports titles that are trying to be simulations of an action sport, discipline, be it skiing or surfing or BMX or skateboarding. And then there's ones that are over the top and really blend the line between an arcade action game,
right,
and the theme happens to be there. I think with the whole category of action arcade, I think when there's really excellent A+ experiences, it thrives. And when they're B or less quality, they're just not as engaging, and they just don't stand out. There's a zillion kind of off-road racing games that are BB+, and they're fun to play, but they don't capture your imagination the same way. So I have the hope that if, lots of these big companies now are talking about the idea of streaming games, and I hope with the idea of streaming and trying to grow the audience way beyond the core gamer, maybe some of these will have an opportunity to, whether it's old titles being recreated or just new ideas.
Yeah.
I grew up on Action Arcade. I grew up on NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and I love those games.
Yes.
I think a new generation might be ready for it.
Yeah, we had Michael Mindheim on the show not too long ago. He worked on the Mutant, I think it was Mutant League Football for EA. But,
oh my God!
But he just relaunched.
Bones Jackson was the quarterback.
Yes, exactly. And he just relaunched Mutant Football League, and that was released this year on Xbox One and PlayStation. And he said a lot of the same things, and I totally subscribe to that philosophy as well. There's the NBA Playgrounds group from Saber, which is trying to pick up the baton from NBA Jam and NBA Street. You worked on NBA Street as well. I loved that freaking series. That was an amazing series of games. Tell me a little bit.
I was really fortunate. There was a team, Daryl, Anselmo, and Josh Holmes, who went on to take over the Halo franchise, and Will Moselle, who went on to run the EA or the Vancouver studio for Microsoft. They started that game just after we did SSX, and then I was asked to bring that into my group. And so we did, along with Will, we did NBA Street 2. Mm-hmm. And I picked that game up as well, because once I bought an old PlayStation 2 again, I wanted to play that to see. My youngest son and I used to play it endlessly. And so I got him over and we played it. And that is another game that holds up really well. And it's the sound of it is amazing. It's not just the soundtrack, it's the sound effects in it. There's a series that's just come out on Netflix about hip-hop music producers, and Just Blaze, who's one of the executive producers and featured in it, he did a lot of the sound design in that game, and it's amazing. And the layers of the gameplay, and I can remember at the time having to fight with upper management because we had this very animated, cartoony style, exaggerated look to the game. We had players that weren't trying to be photorealistic, and I was being told, well, that's not the trend, we got to do this. And that's the fun thing about trying to do it differently, being able to stand up and Will and his team did an amazing job, and being able to do something that looked different and felt different. And that's a game that's another one I'd love to see come back. I don't know if you see it, but I get sent this stuff all the time. They were doing a lot of highlights this year of NBA players, and they would describe it as going full NBA Street 2. And they were grabbing the visual effects and the soundtrack from NBA Street 2 and, putting them on top of Steph Curry or putting them on top of other players. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, Steve, I mean, honestly, thank you for being a part of those games, because they are incredibly important. You know, when we were talking offline, it's like, I don't want to come off as two cranky old guys that are talking about the glory days of games, but it does feel like what a missed opportunity, you know. And I'm very appreciative of Xbox having this backwards compatibility program, and I wish the other platforms were doing the same kind of thing as well. But it does seem like here is an opportunity to dive into a catalog like this, and honestly, I don't know what EA is doing, just holding back here with these amazing titles, and to bring us new material, you know. So my hope is that people play SSX3 because it's sitting right there. You can buy it, or you can pull out your copy from the shelf and play it. But also that the industry kind of pays attention to the importance of that game, and games like NBA Street as well, and the NBA Jam and Blitz and all that. And we find a way to bring some of that material back, because it's really missed, man. And maybe part of the problem is you guys did such a great job 15 years ago, and even longer and even earlier than that, that they have stood the test of time, and they are still so important and still playable. We just don't have the machines to play them on.
Yeah, I mean, I greatly appreciate what you've just said. My biggest hope is if people look at not necessarily the games, I mean, because there were other SSX games, there were other Street games. They don't look at just the game or the title or the intellectual property. They look at what are the values of the game? What did it embrace? What did it try and do? And yeah, teams are very important too, but you can put different people together and create things differently than you would have. But yeah, I would love just to see the whole category come back in a big way, in the same way that Netflix as a distribution platform has given rise to a whole bunch of new and new versions of old content, because there's a broader audience out there who has an insatiable appetite and is willing to try new things. So, yeah, from your mouth to Andrew Wilson's ears at EA. Got my number.
Let's make that happen. At Xbox, since you've already opened up the door and you're letting people play SSX3, reach out to EA and pick up some of these incredible franchises, man, and make them Xbox exclusive. People would flip out for something like that.
And if anybody's watching this that works in Redmond at Microsoft, please walk to Phil Spencer's office and say thank you from me to him for getting this onto Xbox. That's amazing that a whole new generation of people can play the game. So thank you for that too. That's great.
That's awesome. Steve, thank you so much. Continued success in your career. We didn't get into what you're working on these days, but I definitely would love to have you back on. And maybe one day we even do like a little sort of reunion with some of your SSX comrades.
That would be really fun. And thank you for you've always been an incredible supporter. When we started the EA Sports big brand, you were a supporter day one, and you've been a big supporter of all the games we did back in that time. So, and I mean, I don't know if people appreciate this, but how long you have been a part of this industry and all the things you have seen firsthand. I mean, it's amazing. I can't even imagine the archive of material you must have.
It's pretty great, and it's a real privilege, and it's a joy to speak with people like you, my friend. Thank you, and we'll have you back as soon as we can, okay?
My pleasure.
All right, take care. All right, guys, now it's time to move on, and speaking of the glory days, let's take a look at a buried treasure. My buried treasure today is something that's a little bit more modern. It didn't come out that long ago. It's Mad Max, the video game from Avalanche, which came out for the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC. And this was a very cool open world experience. You've got to do all kinds of killing of all kinds of dystopian mutants and other sort of bad guys that are crawling around on the deserts and the caves and the areas that you're whipping around. You can customize your vehicles. You can take over enemies' cars. You can set traps. You can spike them and drag them and do all kinds of heinous things to them. There's some pretty cool cut sequences in here. It's definitely a mature rated game. The thing that kind of drove this thing down a little bit is that the desert setting meant that you were driving for big chunks of time. It's huge. It's a massive game, and sometimes it just felt like you're seeing a lot of the same stuff over and over again. But Mad Max is such a cool property. It's such a cool world, and this game really helps us to you know, kind of dive in and explore it. And it was well made, and it didn't sell. So likely we're not going to get new Mad Max stuff, at least at this sort of AAA caliber. But that's okay, because this game is absolutely worth re-exploring. It's aging well. It's certainly not the most beautiful open world experience that you're going to play out there, nor is it the most populated or detailed, but it is very authentic to the Mad Max core sort of world and experience, and that is why it is absolutely a buried treasure. All right, we are back, and we're going to be playing a little bit of God of War, and we're going to be jumping into that right now. I'm just going to see if there's any other comments from people that have been playing this thing, because, yeah, Mark White says, astounding game. I've been a gamer since the Atari 2600. I'm 49 years old, and this is one of the best games I've ever played. Yeah, it really is one of those games that has been around forever, and you can certainly appreciate it. Knucklehead says, or if you've been around forever, you can certainly appreciate it. Knucklehead says, I was never really into the old games. I appreciated them, but they were not must-buy. Not must-buys. He's talking about God of War. This game, I've only been playing for just over an hour, and I'm already hooked. I get the hype, and for the first time in a long time, a AAA game delivers. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, so I've got God of War on the television screen, and we're going to play right from the very beginning. And yeah, no music. So we're just going to jump right into this. And if you've got questions, I'm really going to try to focus on the game and let you guys hear stuff. But you can yell them out to me. Okay. Yeah, Blake's mic is not working, but he'll yell them out to me. So I'm going to focus on the game so you guys aren't all telling me that I suck at video games. But let's show you a little bit of the brand new God of War. And congratulations again to all of our friends at Sony Santa Monica. We hope you're having a phenomenal day and an incredible weekend getting all the feedback. Let's get started. We're going to play Give Me a Balanced Experience so I don't die too much. It's pretty quiet right now, but you can boost it if the audio... Yeah, let us know how the audio is. Should be hearing an axe chop right now. We find out the significance of the tree in a minute here. Playing this on the regular PlayStation 4, so this is not a you know, juiced PlayStation 4 Pro kind of visual output that we're having here. I think it runs at 30 frames per second on the PS4. Yep.
I found some.
Get in the boat, boy.
Okay. Kratos has no trouble lifting up a giant tree.
Still want me to tie it to the boat?
And walking with it. Carrying it like I carry a box of Kleenex.
Boy.
I am celebrating 420 work away by playing God of War.
That is enough.
We spent a lot of time in a canoe in this game. Water travel is incredibly important
Father?
in God of War.
Did something change? The forest feels different.
I reached out to
Everything
Nintendo.
is
I don't know if
different,
it's
boy.
in the mail. It might actually
Try not to
be
dwell on it.
at the post
sir.
office box. But we haven't been there today yet, so I don't know if it's there. But yeah, they know we want it, and they know we want to feature it, so hopefully it'll be very soon. Maybe Monday. In case you didn't know, Christopher Judge is our new Kratos. Yes, the guy from Stargate. Who is a wonderful dude, by the way. I met him at Comic-Con or something like that years ago, and we hit it off right away. He's a super, super nice guy. But he's terrific as this Kratos. You can see the layers of depth in the background in the forest, and the misting, and like everything just feels so authentic. I have to pause for 1 sec while I adjust the camera, because that's one thing I didn't do. Invert vertical. There we go. Bam. Okay. I'm old school, yes.
That was the last.
So let us know how it sounds. Hopefully it sounds okay for you guys. You do not throw the tree at the kid. This is kind of a beautiful, quiet, solemn moment. So hold your snark, Blake Siefkin.
Oh, there do I see my mother. Oh, there do I see my father. Oh, there do they call to me. 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 She's ready.
Find your way home. You are free.
In the game, yes. So this is an incredibly heavy sequence in the game, and the irony struck me many times as I was playing this, that I was ignoring my own family because I cared about this family so much. And I think everybody that is doing that this weekend is going to understand what I'm talking about. But that was so brave and so beautifully constructed, that sequence right there. The quietness, the stillness, the honesty, the acting, and it's still, I mean, this is just special. And this is why God of War is getting the deserved love that it is receiving in the industry, and why we are taking the time today to appreciate this game.
I'm sorry.
Squeeze. This knife. It was hers. Now it is yours. She taught you to hunt.
What she knew.
Show me.
Now?
Now.
Paul Adamson, the gravitas of it being the boy's responsibility to ready his mom's body for burial. Wow. Yeah, it's heavy, man. I've played through this, and I'm getting emotional just seeing it again. It's just incredible.
Which way?
In the direction of deer.
Okay, this way. Father?
So now we go and we hunt.
Why are we doing this now?
I need to know you can survive the journey.
Then we leave for the mountain?
Depends on you. Hunt. What did you find?
Tracks. Not deer, though. I'll keep looking.
So there's hidden stuff everywhere. And I don't think I'm going to go and find everything, because that's kind of spoiling a lot of stuff. I think I'm going to play through just sort of following the path and just keeping up with
More
the
tracks?
Yeah, but they're too round. Could be a wild boar.
And when I did my review, I talked about the fact that I had
Now what?
zipped past a lot of stuff right there, right at the beginning. Because your eyes are just like, wow, look in every direction. It's so much detail. It's so beautiful. And so they're teaching you the mechanics.
This way, boy.
There's no jumping in this game. It's like an old Zelda game in that way, where it's like Ocarina of Time or something.
Deer tracks. They're
where
fresh.
you jump where you're,
This way.
you need to, but you don't jump at will. You can roll, but I don't think you even roll all the time. I think it's just when you're in combat.
Found it!
Slow down, boy.
Sorry.
You are hunting deer, not chasing it.
But you
Yes,
can
Father.
find little pockets of money and stuff like that. Hack silver. You'll see a lot of dead soldiers and things along the way. I'll do my best not to stray from the path too much.
We broke
to
our bridge.
Spoil stuff.
How are we gonna get across?
Step aside.
Now this is the Leviathan axe, and one of the great things about it.
Wow.
Throw it.
Go.
Oh, it's not.
Oh.
Okay.
I've been here.
You can catch it. Okay. Yeah, they're at the beginning they slow it all down so you can kind of
Hold.
understand the new mechanics.
What are you doing? Now its guard is up. Only fire. Only fire. When I tell you to fire.
I'm sorry.
Do not be sorry. Be better.
Spencer Rowe says, loving the lack
Find
of
it.
on-screen clutter. Yeah. This is transportive.
Find it.
It's very hard to stop playing. It's hard to stop playing once you've beaten the game.
My bow!
No! You are not ready! Stay back!
First time I'm seeing it on it runs fine. this is running through our capture device and our computer and everything. It's pretty good. Not optimal, and it definitely runs better on the PS4 Pro, and you can also adjust for frame rate. It's pretty silky smooth, but I actually preferred it in 4K at 30 frames than 1080p at 60 frames. I like that extra bit of fidelity. This is good. Good training. Shield does come in for show.
Draugr. They've never come this close to our woods before.
Keep moving.
Green is health, red is rage.
Up there! You went in the old temple, but Mom told me never to go in there.
We do what we please, boy. No excuses.
Blake, is it okay if I call you boy? Boy, run that B-roll.
Can I have my bow back now?
Olaf Christensen says
it
best
from
deer
here?
hunting since The Last of Us.
We should get closer. I went hunting with Mother a bunch of times. She never wanted to take me. Why now?
It was her wish. And it was time.
Okay. Draugr!
You get people on the throw and the recall. This at the beginning was positively surprised. once you start leveling up, things get pretty crazy, and it's like so much flash and fun on this game. This is like party time here. Yeah, pass this shit. All right. Do a little green.
Follow me, Atreus.
Red for Fury. I don't think we've unlocked the Fury mode yet. That's something to see too. Oh, okay, so.
Something's gotta open that gate.
Shield your eyes if you don't want any spoilers.
It's open.
There are lots of great abilities that the Leviathan axe has.
You froze it in place.
Like freezing things.
Clever.
Okay. Like go. There we go. There's stuff down there, but I'm not going. I gotta go for it. I see the chest. I can't see the chest and walk away from it. Okay.
What?
He can no longer use it. We can.
I see. Okay.
So... Nice. Father, look.
Wait for my mark. Relax. Do not think of it as an animal. It is simply a target. Clear
This
your
Kratos
mind.
is more of a wuss.
Steady your aim.
Come on,
and
Spider-Man.
breathe in. Feet solid. Steady yourself.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not.
I got it.
Good.
It's still alive.
There's another just insanely cool sequence.
Your knife. No. Finish what you started.
Clayton Blair, this game is not rated E.
I can't.
Swangor is saying, I'm waiting for Aloy to walk in. It's Blur, it's rated E for extremely violent. But, like, honestly, they just honored this animal, you know, in that sequence, which is just great, you know, like... And the kid coming to grips with it. Wonderful. All these quiet little moments, these little touches, they just add so much... you know, honesty. Then it gets nuts. And then you go, oh yeah, we're playing God of War.
We're gonna fight that?
We have no choice.
Okay, so now Atreus, who's just killed his first thing, has the ability to help you. And you press,
Tell me when to shoot.
you press the square button in the middle of the combat to get him to shoot his arrow. That thing starts off with 3 arrows at the beginning, and actually it's very helpful. And he grows increasingly increasingly so as we get. Oh, and I can sprint a little bit, and oh, I lost it. He is very strong. Remaster of the what? Yeah, it's a remaster of the PS2 game. No, it is not. It's completely original. I'm out of almost out of health, so I'm gonna die. This is really to teach you the dodging and running away from strikes.
Why isn't he falling? This is getting kind of hairy.
Oh, I'm dead. Oh my goodness. My bad. So we'll pick it up right from the boss fight, and I'll do better. Why did Sony not name it God of War 4? I have no idea. I think they wanted it to be like a reboot of the franchise.
Just tell me when to shoot.
And that's that question was from Spider-Man. Even though the past work is absolutely honored in this game, they wanted something new. The design, because now God of War is it's a different experience. It's like a totally, like there's echoes of the formula and echoes of the mechanics, but it's a new game.
Almost ready.
Changes of the axe is like a toothpick. Alright. Slice it.
Get control of yourself, boy.
I'm fine.
Get back. Get him, shoot him in the face. Okay. Take him out. Introduce him to the giant rock. I think. Oh no, not this one. Okay.
That's what you get!
Boy.
Think I'm afraid of you! You're nothing to me!
Boy, look at me. Look at me, boy. Boy.
So I don't know what the kid's name is, the actor, but he does an amazing job as well.
We did it.
Paul Adamson says, too bad Blake can't pick up the second controller and co-op control the kid. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where we go. You know, maybe that's the PS5 iteration where we start to get into two-player co-op with games like this and Uncharted and Last of Us.
I proved myself. How am I not ready?
Or maybe more.
We are going home.
Spencer Rose says, I just can't believe how amazing Sony's been doing this gen. Really nothing from Microsoft that comes close to these exclusives that Sony's been releasing. What an unbelievable experience. And, you know, I feel like it's pretty easy to pile on to anybody else other than Sony. But I think what we should be doing instead, because Microsoft knows that they need exclusives. They're not blind to that. And they are promising that they are coming. And Nintendo doubled down, and they released some incredible exclusives last year, and now, like, we're all waiting to see how they continue that momentum. But what Sony's been doing, and what we can sort of acknowledge and applaud here, is that they have been quietly and not so quietly investing in really incredible risks, and not just their own internal teams, but also spending money in, you know, with partnerships, so that Sony's got this never-ending collection of games that are only available on that platform, and that's why they're ahead, you know, and everybody knows it. And the proof is in the pudding, man. This is going to be a huge, huge hit, and it could be the game of the year, you know. We'll see what Red Dead 2 and some of the E3 surprises have got in store for us, but it's easy to throw the mud, but I think what we really should be doing is recognizing that this is a game that's going to change some stuff, you know, especially in the face of the backlash that EA had with microtransactions in Battlefront, and now the preponderance of news around Battle Royale. This game is going to be a very welcome change of discussion. It's a valuable part of Breath of the Wild was last year. It is great when game companies take risks on games that are just meant for one person to enjoy, you know? So this is a locked door. There's nothing I can do right now.
Still can't get the doors open, huh?
Quiet.
Yeah, so I can't do anything with that yet. Let's get some health going. Let's climb up here. Throwing the blade is incredibly important.
What is that thing? The axe isn't working?
So my freeze axe is not so effective on this frozen dude. Fists are pretty good. Okay, some health.
I told you something was different about the forest.
And I told you not to speak.
Alright, so there's lots of stuff that I didn't go and chase and grab. Lots of little collectibles.
Well, why would a fire troll burn Mother's garden? And since when are Draugrs so close to the house? And what was that frozen thing that attacked us?
I do not know. Now be silent. We are almost home.
So this was where Kratos' wife was burned and sent off. And I love all of these handprints on the rocks and everything like that. So much great detail. Alright, so now we go home.
Inside, boy.
Yeah, Microsoft has, you know, they've got the opportunity at E3 to kind of show us real, tangible games that they're not going to cancel, that they're going to finish, that are fully AAA, that we understand immediately their value. And it's kind of up to them this year. They've given us a great machine in the Xbox One X, and the S is excellent too. Now that software needs to drop. It takes time to build this stuff, guys. This is a 5-year development on this title. Spencer O, we're going to get sick of the word Battle Royale within 2 months. D9000, I will do my best to do a Labo live stream. Probably not going to like live stream building the whole thing, I think, because it might take hours. I don't know how long it'll take to do one of those things, but we'll see when we get it. Might do a time-lapse deal. I liked how that worked with the Lego stuff that we've been doing.
You lost control.
That thing was trying to kill us. It's not like you don't get angry in a fight.
Anger can be a weapon.
You guys don't know this, but I actually did some of the body modeling for Kratos. Those are my abs in the game.
I'm better now.
Fine.
Yeah.
Come on, then.
You want me to hit you?
I want you to try.
Ow! What are you...
Try again.
Why are you doing that?
Too slow. Try again.
Cut it out!
Weak. Again. Again!
Stop
Again!
Later tonight, Ruby and I will be doing this exact same training mission.
Your anger, you can get lost in it. The path ahead is difficult. And you, Atreus, are clearly not ready.
Who was that?
Quiet.
Come on out! There's no use hiding anymore. I know who you are.
What's going on? Do you know him?
More importantly, I know what you are.
Boy, beneath the floor. Now!
So I'm gonna do about 10 more minutes of this game.
Who is that?
I do not
And if
know.
anybody
What's he
is
talking about?
worried about
I do not know.
spoilers,
Get in.
not that anything huge is revealed in this next encounter.
Just tell
It's
me
just-
what I want to know.
It's incredible.
No
So
need for
if your
this to
plan
get bloody.
is to get this game and sort of watch and play it, you know, unspoiled, now might be a good time for you to check out if you don't want to see anymore. And I'm not offended if you don't. But if you do want to see a bit more, get ready.
Long way
This
from
is awesome.
home, aren't you?
What do you want?
Oh, you already know the answer to that.
Whatever it is you seek, I do not have it. You should move on.
And here I thought your kind was supposed to be so enlightened, so much better than us, so much smarter. And yet you hide out here in the woods, like a coward.
You do not want this fight.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I do.
Leave my home.
You are going to have to kill me for that to happen.
I warned you.
Finally.
You would not listen.
Fine. My turn. How incredibly disappointing.
This is about 20 minutes into the game, guys.
Come on, then.
This is a story that takes about 25 hours.
Point. You bore me. Are you even trying? Come on already! Tell me what I want.
This ain't The Last of Us.
Real simple. Why are there two beds in? Struck a nerve, did I? Who are you hiding? Slow and old. You should never have come to Midgard.
Uh-oh.
So, care to try again?
You talk too much.
You won't talk? Fine. Maybe whoever it is you've got stashed in that house will. Who are you afraid I'll find? Let's find out. What are you hiding? You are a fool. I don't have time for this. You're a vicious one, aren't you?
Come on, get him! Oh, you can't stop those things. Can you believe this? Absolutely incredible. I think that's good. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be streaming a little bit more off of my personal PlayStation 4 Pro. I want to stream some more footage of this so it's available on our channel so you guys can watch some more. I just think it's a great game to celebrate. But I think that's good for today. That gives you a nice taste of this incredible experience. A round of applause for Sony Santa Monica and Cory Barlog and everybody involved with this incredible game. I hope you guys all have an amazing weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you again to Steve Rechtschaffner for being on the show today and talking about SSX3, which if you have an Xbox, you need to download that sucker if you don't already have it in your collection. Incredible game. But that's it for today. We're going to come back with new EP Lives next week, so make sure you tune in for those. We've also got an EP Classic episode coming up this weekend, so look for that. We've got tons of other content for you to check out, and if you do and you dig it, hit subscribe. You got to hit that little bell because YouTube is terrible at sending out notifications. I don't know what that's all about, YouTube. You got to fix that. But thank you so much, everybody. And remember, if you want to sponsor us, you can do that at gaming.youtube.com/EPN. There's a sponsor button right there. EPN TV. Sorry, I got to get our URL right. We'll see you on Monday. Have yourselves a fantastic weekend. Thanks for watching.